The Roman Republic, a rising power in the Mediterranean, prided itself on its military might and its republican ideals. Its legions were feared across the known world, and its influence stretched far and wide. Yet beneath this veneer of glory and virtue festered a dark underbelly: slavery. The Republic's grandeur was built on the backs of countless enslaved individuals who were treated as mere property. The brutal system, fueled by Roman conquest, saw millions toil in misery, their lives forfeit to the whims of their masters. These slaves worked in the fields, mines, and households, enduring unimaginable hardships. In this cauldron of resentment, the embers of rebellion were never far from igniting. The oppressed whispered of freedom, and secret gatherings became hotbeds of revolutionary ideas. The First Servile War, a generation prior, had offered a terrifying glimpse into the potential for slave revolt. It had shaken the Republic to its core, revealing the latent power of the oppressed. Now, in 104 BCE, the nightmare returned with a vengeance. The flames of rebellion were rekindled, and the Republic once again faced the spectre of widespread insurrection. The Second Servile War, erupting on the island of Sicily, would test the very foundations of Roman power. The island became a battleground, where the enslaved fought desperately for their freedom. It is a story of desperation, courage, brutality, and the fragility of empires built on the backs of the enslaved. The struggle of these slaves against their oppressors would leave an indelible mark on history, reminding us of the enduring human spirit. To understand the Second Servile War, we must first confront the grim realities of Roman slavery. This was a world where human beings were reduced to mere commodities, stripped of their identities and subjected to the whims of their masters. Slaves were not citizens. They were property, chattel to be bought, sold, and disposed of at their master's whim. They had no rights, no legal standing, and were often treated with unimaginable cruelty. Forced labor in mines, on farms, and in households was their daily existence, often under the watchful eyes of brutal overseers. These overseers were tasked with extracting the maximum amount of labor, often through violent means. Punishments were harsh and swift, designed to break spirits and ensure obedience. Whippings, beatings, and even executions were common, serving as grim reminders of the slave's precarious existence. Yet, even within this system designed to dehumanize, hope flickered. Some slaves found solace in small acts of resistance, while others held on to the belief that their suffering would one day end. Some slaves, through luck or skill, might earn their freedom. Manumission, the act of freeing a slave, was a rare but possible outcome, offering a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak existence. Others clung to memories of their homelands, dreaming of a day when the yoke of Roman oppression might be lifted. These dreams provided a mental escape from their harsh realities. In Sicily, a fertile land transformed into Rome's breadbasket, these grievances festered. The island's rich soil and abundant resources made it a prime location for large-scale agriculture, which relied heavily on slave labor. The island teemed with slaves, many employed on vast agricultural estates, their treatment often exceeding even the brutal norms of Roman slavery. The harsh conditions and relentless exploitation created a volatile environment. It was a powder keg awaiting a spark. The combination of severe oppression, harsh punishments, and the faint glimmer of hope for freedom set the stage for inevitable conflict. That spark came in the form of a man named Salvius, a Syrian slave skilled in music and prophecy. Salvius was not just any ordinary slave, he was a man of vision and charisma, able to see beyond the chains that bound him and his fellow slaves. His talents in music and prophecy gave him a unique position among the slaves, allowing him to inspire and lead. Claiming divine inspiration, Salvius rallied his fellow slaves with promises of freedom and vengeance. He spoke of a future where they would no longer be oppressed, where they could live as free men and women. His words resonated deeply with the slaves, who had long suffered under the harsh rule of their Roman masters. He was joined by Athenian, a slave overseer who possessed a keen military mind. Athenian brought with him not only his strategic acumen, but also a deep understanding of the Roman military tactics, which proved invaluable in the battles to come. Together they forged a disciplined fighting force from the desperate and the dispossessed. These men and women, who had nothing left to lose, were transformed into a formidable army, ready to fight for their freedom, The rebellion began with a series of small, localized uprisings targeting isolated estates and Roman officials. Momentum built quickly. These initial skirmishes were crucial as they demonstrated the slaves' resolve and ability to organize against their oppressors. As slaves flocked to Salvius's banner, the Romans, initially dismissive, found themselves facing a full-scale revolt. The sheer number of slaves joining the cause was overwhelming, and the Roman authorities were caught off guard by the scale and intensity of the rebellion. The rebels, armed with whatever they could scavenge, fought with the fury of men with nothing to lose but their chains. Their determination and desperation made them a formidable force, willing to risk everything for a chance at freedom. Salvius, the spiritual leader, understood the power of symbolism. He adopted the regalia of a king, a direct challenge to Roman authority. Athenian, the pragmatist, drilled the ragtag army, instilling discipline and tactical awareness. Together, they formed a formidable leadership duo. Salvius, charismatic and visionary, kept the flames of rebellion burning, while Athenian, the strategist, ensured their struggle was more than mere blind rage. They understood that to survive, they needed more than just fury, they needed victories. Rome, initially slow to grasp the gravity of the situation, dispatched a series of praetors and proconsuls to quell the uprising. They underestimated the rebels' resolve and their leaders' tactical acumen. Roman legions, accustomed to crushing foreign armies, found themselves outmaneuvered and bloodied by the very people they considered beneath them. The war dragged on, each Roman defeat further emboldening the rebels and shaking the Republic's confidence. It was in this crucible that a young Roman general named Gaius Marius would rise to prominence. Recognizing the need for new tactics and fresh legions, Marius, a new man challenging the established Roman aristocracy, would leave his mark on both the war and on Roman history itself. The Second Servile War was not a conflict confined to pitched battles. It was a savage struggle for survival, characterized by brutality on both sides. The rebels, fueled by years of pent-up rage, showed no mercy to their former oppressors. Roman reprisals were swift and merciless, crucifixions lining the roads as grim warnings to any who dared challenge the established order. The war dragged on for years, a festering wound on the Roman psyche. It exposed the limitations of the Republic's military, its over-reliance on slave labor, and the deep-seated societal tensions that simmered beneath the surface of Roman power. Despite their early successes, the tide began to turn against the rebels. Roman legions under Marius's command adapted to the guerrilla tactics employed by the slaves. The rebels, despite their ferocity, were hampered by a lack of resources and constant pressure from the Roman war machine. In a final confrontation, Salvius, the heart and soul of the rebellion, was killed. His death dealt a devastating blow to the morale of the slave army. Athenian, assuming command, fought on, but the writing was on the wall. The rebellion, starved of resources and leadership, was slowly crushed. The Second Servile War, though ultimately crushed, left an indelible mark on Roman society. The spectre of slave revolt, once a distant fear, became a chilling reality. The war had exposed the vulnerabilities of the Roman system, forcing the Republic to confront the consequences of its dependence on slave labor. The war also served as a springboard for ambitious men like Marius, who would exploit the anxieties of the age to advance their own careers, forever altering the political landscape of Rome. Though the slaves were defeated, their rebellion planted seeds of doubt about the sustainability and morality of Roman slavery. The Second Servile War, a brutal chapter in Roman history, serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of empire and the enduring struggle for freedom. The echoes of the slaves' rebellion, their courage and desperation, resonate through the centuries, a testament to the indomitable human spirit and a cautionary tale about the fragility of power built on oppression. Though the slaves of Sicily ultimately failed to break their chains, their struggle stands as a stark reminder that even the most powerful empires are built on foundations that can be shaken and sometimes even shattered by the cries of the oppressed.